everyone, this is Chris Carusimo Marquez back at you with another episode of Geek University. This time we are recapping all 21 films from the Marvel Cinematic Universe so that you'll be all caught up and ready for Avengers Endgame on April 26th. This video is part 1 of 2 and will encompass both Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Part 2 will have Phase 3, but before we get started, just a small reminder that if you like what you see here, make sure you hit those subscribe and like buttons, and don't forget to also ring that notification bell in order to stay up to date on any new content we publish. Also, stick around until the end of the video for a very special Marvel giveaway. Alright, let's jump right into Phase 1 of the MCU. The first film of Phase 1 and the film that started this crazy ride was Iron Man. This film introduces us to the snarky, egotistical tech genius Tony Stark, brilliantly portrayed by Robert Downey Jr. After a weapons demo in Afghanistan, Stark gets shrapnel lodged in his chest when his convoy is ambushed by the Ten Rings. Stark secretly builds a suit of armor that is powered by a small arc reactor, something that is also keeping him alive by pulling the shrapnel in his chest away from his heart. He uses this armor to escape and makes his way back to America. He begins building a more state-of-the-art version of the armor and assumes the mantle of Iron Man. Stark and his business partner, Obadiah Stane, are at odds over the use of his arc reactor technology. Stane builds his own suit and a final battle ensues, with Iron Man eventually coming out on top. Stark then declares to the world that he is in fact Iron Man. Flash forward to the MCU's first post-credit scene and we are introduced to Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury, who tells Stark about his Avengers Initiative project and tells Stark that he has now become a part of a bigger universe. Next up is the Incredible Hulk. In this film, we are given a brief origin and setup of the Hulk's character through a montage during the opening credits. Bruce Banner, as played by Edward Norton, has been hiding in South America trying to keep his alter ego the Hulk under control. He is lured out of hiding and returns stateside in his ever-going quest for a cure. Military forces led by General Ross confront the Hulk throughout the movie. When a soldier named Emil Blonsky is injured in one of the battles, the military turns him into a Hulk-like being called the Abomination. An incredibly destructive final battle happens that sees the Hulk victorious, though the massive destruction left in his wake forces Banner back into exile. In the post-credit scene for this movie, we see General Ross in a bar being approached by Tony Stark. Stark tells the general they are putting a team together, nodding to the aforementioned Avengers Initiative. In Iron Man 2, Tony is forced to give a version of his suit to the US government. He ends up giving them an older model to be piloted by his friend James Rhodes. With his new suit, Rhodes assumes the mantle of War Machine. A scientist named Ivan Vanko becomes the villain Whiplash in an attempt to destroy the Stark family and their legacy as revenge for things Tony's father did to Ivan's. Tony's new assistant, played by Scarlett Johansson, reveals herself to be the S.H.I.E.L.D. agent known as the Black Widow. She helps Iron Man and War Machine defeat Whiplash in a final battle. In the post-credit scene, we see S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Coulson arrive at a crater and say, "Sir, we found it." The camera cuts in and we see our first glimpse at the all-powerful Hammer Mjolnir, thus teasing the next MCU solo character and film, Thor. In Thor, we see our hero, as played by Chris Hemsworth, exiled to Earth by his father Odin, played by Anthony Hopkins for being disobedient. Thor goes to retrieve Mjolnir from the S.H.I.E.L.D. base, and it is here we are introduced briefly to the sharpshooting Hawkeye, as played by Jeremy Renner. Thor eventually succeeds and is reunited with his hammer. Jealous of his brother Thor and not wanting him to return to Asgard, Loki, played by Tom Hiddleston, sends an ultimate weapon to Earth called the Destroyer to kill him. With the help of his 3 Asgardian warrior friends and some scientists, Thor is able to defeat the Destroyer. Thor returns to Asgard just in time to stop Loki from killing Odin. Loki is then banished into the darkness. The post-credits scene shows us Dr. Selvig talking to Nick Fury in some sort of underground bunker. Fury opens a case and we see the Tesseract, a box containing the Space Stone. This is the first appearance of the Infinity Stones in the MCU. We then see Loki's reflection letting us know he isn't gone after all. In Captain America, the First Avenger, we travel back in time to World War II. In this film, we see a small and frail Steve Rogers, played by Chris Evans, undergo an experiment by the military to become a super soldier. The process works and Steve is transformed into the swift, agile, and strong Captain America. For the most part, the Army sees Captain America more as a recruiting tool than a weapon. They send him around on publicity tours to get people to join the military and to encourage them to buy war bonds. While on tour in Italy, Rogers learns that his best friend Bucky Barnes has gone MIA during a mission. He then goes behind enemy lines to rescue Barnes and his men. Captain America is then confronted by the Red Skull, who is played by Hugo Weaving. He is the leader of the Nazi unit called Hydra. The Red Skull has been using the powerful Tesseract to power his specialized weapon. Rogers is able to escape with Barnes and the others. Following the success of the mission, Rogers then recruits Barnes and several others to form a team to attack other Hydra bases. Rogers gets his famous circular shield and the team goes to work. Barnes is lost and presumed dead following an assault on a train carrying Red Skull's top scientist, Arnim Zola. Using the information gained by capturing Zola, the location of Hydra's last base is found. Rogers follows Red Skull into the sky on his plane as he attempts to use weapons of mass destruction to destroy major cities around the world. During the ensuing final battle, Red Skull touches the Tesseract, which sends him through a wormhole. The Tesseract then burns a hole in the plane and is lost at sea. To keep from landing the plane and having the weapons go off near other people, Rogers instead crashes the plane in the Arctic. Tony Stark's father, Howard, is able to retrieve the Tesseract from the ocean, but Rogers is presumed dead. Flash forward and Rogers awakens in a hospital bed. Thinking something isn't right, he rushes outside only to be shown standing in a present-day Times Square. Fury then tells him he has been asleep for nearly 70 years. In the post-credit scene, we see Rogers adjusting to the modern world, hitting his punching bag. Fury shows up and proposes that Rogers become Captain America once again. Phase 1 of the MCU culminates with a series series' first team-up film, The Avengers. In this film, Loki has returned to Earth in order to recover the Tesseract and to try and conquer the planet. Fury calls on the Avengers to stop him, and though Loki has some help from a mind-controlled Hawkeye, Iron Man and Captain America are able to stop him. Thor then shows up to take Loki back to Asgard to face justice. Meanwhile, Black Widow is able to convince Bruce Banner, now being played by Mark Ruffalo, to come out of hiding to assist them. Hawkeye is fixed, but Loki manages to escape and kills Agent Coulson in the process. Loki opens a portal over New York City that allows a Chitauri army through to attack Earth. The Avengers manage to put aside their differences and work as a team to try and defeat them. Iron Man, in what appears to be a moment of self-sacrifice, travels through the portal and blows it from the other side. He ends up being okay, and the Chitauri army is defeated, and Loki is captured once again. This film had two post-credit scenes. The first reveals that the cosmic villain Thanos was the one behind everything all along, thus teasing the main storyline for the next two phases of the MCU. In the second post-credit scene, we see our heroes gathered around a table in a battle-worn restaurant silently eating shawarma. This is a reference to a line at the end of the battle with the Chitauris where he suggests they go out for shawarma now that the battle is over. Phase 2 of the MCU begins with the film Iron Man 3. In this film, we see Tony Stark as he attempts to recover from the battle with the Chitauris and the Avengers. Meanwhile, a global terrorist known as the Mandarin, played by Ben Kingsley, threatens his life. War Machine is rebranded by a think tank called AIM as the Iron Patriot. It turns out AIM is behind everything and that the Mandarin isn't even real. He's just an actor named Trevor Slattery. AIM kidnaps the president, but Iron Man is able to get him back. The shrapnel in Tony's chest is also removed in this film, freeing future installments of the character within the MCU from having to deal with this particular plot point. In the post-credit scene, we see Tony talking about his PTSD with what we assume is a therapist. As the camera moves up, we see it is actually a very disinterested Bruce Banner. Next up, we have Thor: The Dark World. In this film, Jane Foster, played by Natalie Portman, wanders into an ancient vault and becomes attached to the Ether, our second Infinity Stone. Thor then brings her to Asgard. While there, the Dark Elves, led by Malekith, attack the realm. The Dark Elves capture the Ether after Malekith draws it out of Jane. They retreat with Thor and Loki chasing after them. Loki seemingly dies during Malekith's escape. Thor is able to defeat Malekith and the Dark Elves with Jane's help as they traverse through various portals. Thor returns to Asgard where he declines Odin's offer to take the throne. As Thor leaves to return to Earth, Odin transforms into Loki, who is now in control of Asgard. In the film's first post-credit scene, we see Volstagg and Sif meet with the Collector, as played by Benicio del Toro, to give him the Ether. When the Collector asks why they don't keep it on Asgard, they tell him that they already have the Tesseract and that it is unwise to keep two Infinity Stones so close together. This is the first confirmation we have in the MCU that the Tesseract and the Ether are in fact Infinity Stones. In the second post-credit scene, we see Thor return to Earth and embrace and kiss Jane, confirming that they are in fact still in a relationship. In the third MCU installment of Phase 2, we return to the Captain America storyline in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. When Nick Fury is apparently killed by a mysterious assassin known only as the Winter Soldier, Steve Rogers, Captain America, and Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, discover that Hydra has infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. and plans to use its new trio of helicarriers to execute and control the world's population. Rogers enlists the help of his military friend Sam Wilson, also known as the Falcon and played by Anthony Mackie. While trying to extract information from a covert Hydra agent, they are ambushed by the Winter Soldier. Rogers learns that the Winter Soldier, played by Sebastian Stan, is none other than Bucky Barnes, the best friend and teammate he lost in battle during the events of Captain America: The First Avenger. Maria Hill, as played by Kobe Smulders, now the acting director of S.H.I.E.L.D., is able to get the trio to a safe house where Nick Fury, having faked his own death, is waiting. Fury has a plan to sabotage the helicarriers by replacing their control chips. After replacing the chips on the first two ships, Rogers is attacked by the Winter Soldier while on the third. He is able to fend him off long enough to replace the third ship. Hill is able to take control and make the ships destroy each other. Rogers refuses to fight the Winter Soldier as an attempt to reach his friend inside. He is thrown from the helicarrier as it collides with the others. The Winter Soldier pulls him from the river before disappearing. S.H.I.E.L.D. is now in ruins and Hydra has been exposed to the public. Rogers and Wilson decide to go after the Winter Soldier while Fury heads to Europe to flush out more Hydra cells. In the first post-credit scene, we are shown a secret Hydra bunker where we are introduced to the Scarlet Witch, played by Elizabeth Olsen, and Quicksilver, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson. This sets up the events that follow in the next team-up film, Avengers: Age of Ultron. In the second post-credit scene, we see the Winter Soldier at a World War II memorial. He comes across an exhibit dedicated to Bucky Barnes, signifying that maybe Bucky is still in there and can be saved. The fourth film of Phase 2 is Guardians of the Galaxy. The film begins with a child-aged Peter Quill being abducted from Earth by the Ravagers, a group led by the space pirate Yondu, played by Michael Rooker. 26 years later, we see Peter Quill, also known as Star-Lord and played by Chris Pratt, on a strange planet attempting to steal a mysterious orb. He is attacked during the heist but manages to escape with the orb. Yondu issues a bounty for his capture. Meanwhile, the Kree-fanatical Ronin sends the assassin Gamora after the orb itself. While attempting to sell the orb on Xandar, Gamora ambushes Quill and steals it. A fight begins and a pair of bounty hunters join in. Groot, as voiced by Vin Diesel, and Rocket Raccoon, as voiced by Bradley Cooper. The Nova Corps captures all four of them and sends them to the Kiln prison. Here they cross paths with another inmate named Drax, who is played by David Bautista. Drax attempts to kill Gamora due to her association with Ronin and Thanos. After convincing Drax that Gamora can help him get justice, the five of them work together to escape from the Kiln storming Quill's ship. They flee to Nowhere, a remote outpost in the far reaches of space. They meet with the Collector to try to sell the ore. The Collector opens it, revealing the Power Stone. An intoxicated Drax summons Ronan to Nowhere, and a small battle ensues as the group tries to flee. Gamora's sister, Nebula, played by Karen Gillan, destroys Gamora's ship, leaving her floating in space. Quill tries to save her, but he has to call Yondu to come save them. Ronan uses the stone for himself and betrays Thanos. Ronan then attacks the planet Xandar. The team joins forces with the Ravagers and the Nova Corps to battle Ronan. They infiltrate his ship, and the battle ensues. The ship crash lands on Xandar, and Groot sacrifices himself to shield the team from harm. Ronan emerges once again, but Quill is able to distract him long enough for Drax and Rocket to destroy his hammer. The team is able to combine to defuse the power of the stone to destroy Ronan. Quill gives the stone to the Nova Corps for safekeeping. The team then takes on the mantle of the Guardians of the Galaxy and leaves Xandar with a sapling Groot. The post-credit scene for this film returns to Nowhere, where we see the Collector's destroyed palace. We see 2 comic book Easter eggs in Cosmo the Dog and Howard the Duck. They are the only things remaining from the collection. Film 5 of Phase 2 is the next team-up event in Avengers Age of Ultron. After defeating Hydra and recovering Loki's scepter, the Avengers dismantle it and find the Mind Stone. Stark uses it to create a new global defense AI system called Ultron, voiced by James Spader. The AI becomes self-aware and enlists the help of Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch. Stark uses a combination of Jarvis and the Mind Stone to create another android called the Vision, played by Paul Bettany. Tensions rise among the team as trust begins to wane between Stark and Rogers. They momentarily set aside those differences to face off against Ultron and his robot army in Sokovia. Quicksilver is killed in battle while Hill and Fury attempt to evacuate the city. The team defeats Ultron and the Vision destroys him. The Hulk returns to exile and Thor leaves once again for Asgard. In the post-credit scene, we see Thanos pick up the Infinity Gauntlet, a glove used to wield all 6 Infinity Stones. This alludes to the fact that he has been looking for the stones and is now ready to start taking matters into his own hands. The final film of Phase 5 is Ant-Man. In this film, we see reformed criminal Scott Lang, played by Paul Rudd, convinced to perform one last heist at the home of former S.H.I.E.L.D. scientist Hank Pym, played by Michael Douglas. There, he discovers what he thinks is just an old motorcycle suit. He takes it home and, after trying it on, accidentally shrinks himself to the size of an insect. Scared of what just happened, he returns the suit only to be arrested. Pym smuggles the suit into the jail and helps Lang escape. Pym and his daughter, Hope Van Dyne, played by Evangeline Lilly, train Lang to be the new Ant-Man so that he can steal the Yellow Jacket suit from Pym's old business partner, Darren Cross, played by Corey Stoll. While attempting to steal the suit during its unveiling, Lang, Pym, and Van Dyne are caught by Cross, where he tells them of his plans to sell both the Yellow Jacket and Ant-Man suits to Hydra. Lang is able to break free and dispatch most of the Hydra agents before the building explodes. Cross dons the Yellow Jacket suit and attacks Lang. Lang then shrinks to a subatomic level in order to infiltrate Cross's suit, causing him to shrink uncontrollably and killing him. Somehow, Lang is able to free himself from the quantum realm. This makes Pym think that saving his wife from the quantum realm is also possible. In the first post-credit scene, we see Pym showing his daughter Van Dyne a new prototype suit. This teases that she will become the superhero Wasp later in the MCU. The second post-credit scene comes directly from Captain America Civil War. It shows Captain America and the Falcon talking about how they'll need Ant-Man's help in the coming battle. So thanks for sticking around until the end. That's it for part 1, but before we get to the giveaway, just a small reminder to make sure you also watch part 2 of this recap in order to get caught up on the entire MCU before Avengers Endgame is released. This channel is giving away a Captain Marvel bobblehead pop figure once we reach 100 subscribers. All you have to do to enter is subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave a comment down below with a geek topic you would like for us to tackle in a future episode of Geek University. A winner will be chosen at random from all of our eligible videos once we hit that 100 subscriber mark. Thanks for joining us today, and again, don't forget to check out part 2. But until then, don't be afraid to let your geek flag fly.